What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the podcast. Today we're going to be doing an LMG tier list, a Marksman Rifle tier list, as well as a Slug Shotgun tier list to conclude all the primary weapons that we have not done so far. I'm Kyle.
I'm Ryan.
I'm Alfred.
The first LMG we have up is the 6P41. This is Fuse's and Finka's LMG. It does a damage of 46 with a fire rate of 680 rounds per minute and a magazine size of 100. If we take a look at its time to kill, it has a 176 time to kill, which is in the middle of the pack against one armors. Against two armors, it has a 176 again, which makes it second best. And against three armors, it has a 176 once again because of its high damage, which makes it the best LMG against three armored opponents. So one armor average, two armor above average, three armor the best. Ryan, do you like this gun at all, kid?
Well, to be honest, I haven't used it since Fuse's other option is the AK-12, and it's pretty obvious which gun you would pick. But, I mean, just based off the stats, it seems pretty good. I would put it as average. I don't really have anything to compare it to right now since it's our first weapon.
Yeah, it's hard to compare it because we don't have another weapon here yet. But it was middle of the pack to higher than all the other ones, and I know it doesn't have any kick, so maybe it goes into A, slightly above average. I don't know, though.
Yeah,
because it's a little higher in all the DPS. So let's put it in A, so we have other things to compare it to, and then we can move it around. Do you agree, Alfred? Just put it in A for now, so we can see where the other things fall.
Yeah.
All right, next up we have the Alda. The Alda is Maestro's LMG. It's got 35 damage and a 900 rounds per minute with an 80 magazine. Against one armored opponents, it does 133, which is the highest LMG damage, DPS-wise, against one armored opponents. Against two armored opponents, the Alda is 200, which makes it about average. And against three armored opponents, which this is only on Maestro, and there's not a lot of three armored attackers, so you won't see this a lot, it's still 200, which makes it average again, just smack in the middle. So, best. And it also has I think one of the fastest fire rates at all the LMGs, being 900 rounds per minute. Yeah, it is the fastest fire rate out of all the LMGs. So the fastest fire rate, the best against one armor, and average against two armor.
Seems like a solid A tier to me.
Yeah, but yeah. I was between S and A, but I don't know if it's perfect enough to put it up into S. So I'm okay with it being in A tier.
That's fair.
That's very yeah. Next up, we got the G8A1, which is one of my favorite LMGs right now, being IQ and Amaru's LMG. This has a damage of 37 with a rate of fire of 850, so the second fastest firing rate LMG, and a magazine size of 50, which you do reload this one pretty fast. Against one armor opponents, the G8 does a damage of 141, which makes it second best, right behind the Alda. Against two armored opponents, it's 212, which makes it actually the worst against two armored opponents. And the time to kill against three armored is 212 once again, which makes it about average. So overall, really good against one armored opponents. Not that great against two and three. But it is one of the only LMGs, I actually believe it's the only LMG on this list that can have angled grip. It does have the smallest mag though, but it is the fastest reload time. To me, I really like the gun because of its angle grip, and I know a lot of people are choosing to pick it on IQ because of that.
So it's a LMG that really promotes aggressive play.
Yeah, it's the only one that's got an angle grip, and you can reload fast. You still got a large mag with 50, and you could reload fast. So, and it's not bad DPS.
And that's the second fastest firing rate too.
Second fastest
on top of all of it, right?
Correct. Against one armors, it's above average DPS.
I think it goes.
Two and three, it falls below average to below average. So to me, it's between A and B, but
personally, I think it's B. Yeah.
Yeah, I could see it just falling short.
I would
of the
put it
guns
below
here.
the Alda.
Yeah, I'm okay with it.
Especially since it's not that good against two or three armored opponents, which is what the majority of defense consists of.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to really rely on the firing rate and the angle grip
Yeah.
for potential for headshots to make use of it.
Yeah, I'm okay with that. But the angle grip does give me a huge reason to want to put it up into A tier, but I'm okay with the B, just in B. Next up is the LMGE. This is Zophia's LMG. It's got a damage of 41, which is above average, but it's got a rate of fire of 720, which is on the slower side of these LMGs. But it does have a mag size of 150, which is the highest we've seen so far. When we take a look at the DPS against one armored opponents, the LMGE has a 167, which makes it the third best, so pretty much middle of the pack. Against two armored opponents, it has a 167 again, which makes it the best gun against two armored opponents. And against three armored opponents, it's 250, which makes it the worst gun against three armored opponents, the worst LMG. So, average against one, the best against two, and the worst against three. It's got 150 bullets, so you could really spray it, and it is steady. It does have an ACOG too. But it has a very slow fire rate and a very slow reloading time. To me, I think it's just average. I think it's just an alright gun. To me, I would put it in B. It has one great thing it excels at, being good against the two armored opponents. But everything else is just nothing
What's
crazy.
his ADS and reload speed compared to other LMGs?
So for this gun, the tactical reload is 7.1 seconds, and the full reload, if you use up every bullet, is 6.5. So tactical reload, that's one of the highest, second highest actually, and its full reload is up there too for one of the highest. Rate of fire wise, it's third or fourth. It's middle of the pack. And ADS, they're all the same, Ryan. So to me,
I think it should be better than that.
it's just alright.
Tactical. I don't know what's up with that. I don't know why it's like that. It's really strange.
It's alright. It's just solid all over.
That really doesn't make
solid.
any sense. Yeah.
Next up, we have the two different M249s. The first one is Capitel's LMG, and then we have the M249 Saw, which is Gridlock's LMG. They both have the same damage, being 48, and they have the same rate of fire of 650. Capitel's LMG has a magazine size of 100, when Gridlock's magazine size has a magazine of 60. I should also say that because of the difference in magazine size changes the reload speed animations. For Capitel's 100 round mag, it's a 7.6 second reload for tactical and full, and Gridlock's is 3.3 and 4.5 for the tactical and full reload, so way shorter. Way shorter.
So better in every way.
But it has a smaller magazine. It only has the 60 bullets instead of the 100.
Oh, I see.
So the time to kill for one armored opponents is 185, which is the worst LMG, tied for the worst. I mean, three guns are tied for this spot, but it's the lowest time to kill for all the LMGs. Against two armored opponents, it stays at 185, which makes it middle of the pack. And against three armored, it stays at 185 again because of its high damage, which makes it second best. So, average gun DPS wise. Just average gun DPS wise, nothing crazy. Got one of the slower fire rates in the game. To me personally, Gridlock's version of it is better because of the faster reload. I don't want to be sitting there for 7 seconds reloading. So I'm thinking maybe we put Capitel's in B and Gridlock's up in A. Give it the slight edge up. What do you think about that, Ryan?
Yeah.
Yeah, you think that?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, basically, you said everything that I was thinking. Not really too much for me to say.
They're very similar besides that. I just think Gridlock's is... I mean, it's a small thing, but it's a huge thing that can impact the amount of time you save reloading. Is much better. Alright, so we're going to grow the Gridlock's LMG up into A and Capitel's in B. Our final LMG we have is the T95 LSW LMG. This is Ying LMG. It's got a damage of 46, which is one of the highest damages we've seen, but it has a rate of fire of 650, which is tied for the lowest. It does have a magazine size of 80, with its reload speed being fairly decent at a reload. Actually, the fastest reload of all LMGs being 2 seconds, and full reload being 3 seconds. So the fastest reload out of all the LMGs. But when we take a look at its time to kill against 1 armored, it's the worst. Against 2 armored, it's middle of the pack. And against 3 armored, it stays at 185, which makes it middle of the pack once again. So the worst LMG against 1 armored, and average against 2 and 3, has the fastest reload with 80 bullets and an ACOG. It is very steady. I mean, it can't be higher than B, but I don't think it goes in C. It's not worse than all these guns in B. I think it's got to go in B with these. What do you think, Ryan?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it should go in B as well.
I think
There's
I-
nothing to move.
I think we move the Alda up to S. I think that one is.
I don't think it deserves BS. It's not an S tier LMG.
But
I don't think there is an S tier LMG.
look at it compared to the other ones. It's got way more damage than gridlocks. It's got a way higher fire. It's got the highest fire rate too. It's got the highest fire rate, more damage than gridlocks, and I believe it was around the
Isn't
same
it
damage
the
as
worst
fuses.
against 2 armor opponents though?
Against 2 armored opponents? No. It was. I'm pretty sure it was average. Let me take a look real quick. It was 200, making it slightly below average. It wasn't the worst though. It was third worst, I believe. I mean, the thing it has over the other two here is it's more DPS than gridlocks. It's faster fire rate than both. Against fuses and fincas, it has a faster reload time. But this one has slightly more DPS. So I don't know. This one I
I would
could.
put it higher than them in A tier, but I wouldn't just put it in S tier personally.
I think it's better than those two things. So how our list is, I think it should go into S tier compared to other guns. I mean, it is the best gun on defense, but if you're comparing to other attacker guns, I don't think it would be an S tier. But just how our list is, I think it's just better than these two, so I think it should move up. I don't know.
No,
That's completely up to you guys.
I'm just kidding. Personally, I don't really. It doesn't bother me at all. I want to put an S tier, but I'm fine if you guys want to.
What do you think, Alfred? Where do you think it should go?
I'm fine with that. I think that makes sense.
So I think it's got. I don't think it's a big edge between these A tier guns, but I think it's the one that's just slightly better, and I think something should go up into S tier.
Mhm.
Okay, so we'll move it up there. Is there any gun that we think goes down to C? I just don't think any of these LMGs. I think all these LMGs are good at one thing. They're just not good at everything. They're not good at enough for them to be above average. You know what I mean? They all have one thing that they're good at. Like Ying's LMG's got that damage, that reload speed, while IQ's has got the
Yeah,
angle
I
grip,
understand.
and they all have their one purpose. It's just not. I don't think it's nothing. They're not good. I don't think none of them are that bad to go down to C. So I think this is where we gonna stick it. You like this list right here, Ryan? You think this is good and offered?
Yeah, I think it's fine.
All
There's
right.
nothing I would change.
Yeah, I agree.
Perfect, perfect. So we're gonna move on to marksman rifles next. All right, so now we're gonna move on to the marksman rifles. Before we start, I just want to say a lot of the marksman rifles are very similar when it comes to the DPS chart. Most of the differences are when it comes to reload speed, and some of them differences are DPS against 3 armored opponents. So this one is going to be very hard for us to compare them, but where this is our preference on the ones we've used and where we would place them.
So we're going to be looking more at the other stats like ADS speed, right, and reload speed.
They all have the same ADS speed, but yes, those kind of stats, reload speed and those type of things. Yes, we'll be looking at.
Reload speed, yeah, that's what I really meant.
Okay. So the first one up is the 417. This is Twitch and Lions marksman rifle. It's got a damage of 67 and a rate of fire of 450 with a magazine size of 20. So when we look at the time to kill against one armor opponents, you could see that the 417 has a 133 time to kill, which is just the same as every other marksman rifle besides glasses. Against 2 armored opponents, it's got a 133 again, so same time to kill for every single gun besides glasses marksman rifle. So see that there. And against 3 armored opponents, this is where they differentiate. It actually stays. It's one of the few guns that stays at 133, so it has the advantage there. Now let's look over its reload speed. It's got a reload speed of 2.6 and a full reload speed of 3.4. As for the 2.6, it's the second fastest, second and third fastest it's tied for. So middle of the pack, slightly above. And against full reload, it's 3.4, which makes it the tied for second or worst with 3 different ones. So average. So it does have
But
the event. Realistically,
it's just mainly the
realistically,
non-tactical reload speed,
yeah,
which people will do majority of the time.
the tactical reload
Especially with
speed.
20 bullets for a marksman rifle, that's a decent clip size.
Yeah, tactical reload is when you don't run out all your bullets, Ryan. They will be doing tactical reload mostly, is what you meant.
Oh, okay, okay.
Full
Well, yeah,
reload is
yeah.
when you run out of the whole clip. Yeah, and it does have the plus side, so which is slightly above average, and it does have the plus side of being the highest DPS against 3 armors. It doesn't fall off, so because of that, it's got to be above average. So to me, it's got to be an A tier.
Yeah, I think so also.
Okay, so we'll throw it up in A tier for now. All right, so our next marksman rifle up is the CMRS, which is Buck's marksman rifle. It has a damage of 69 and a rate of fire of 450 with a magazine size of 20 as well. So we're not going to look at the 1 and 2 armor times to kills because we know it's the same as every marksman rifle besides Glad's already. And when we look at the time to kill for 3 armor, it's the only other LMG besides the one we just looked at that stays at 133. So because of that, it's already ahead of the pack, being one of the best one against 3 armored. When we look at its reload speed, it's got identical to the last gun we just looked at, the 417. So it had all the exact same stats as the gun we just looked at, but it has slightly higher damage. I think it was from 68 to 69. But the rate of fire and everything else is identical, so it doesn't even make a difference at all. So I think he just goes up in A tier with it. Pretty simple one, don't you think?
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. That one.
Both very solid.
All right, the next marksman we have up is the MK14 EBR, which is Dokubi's marksman rifle. It's got a damage of 60, so slightly lower than the ones we've seen. Its rate of fire is 450, just like the other ones, and its magazine size is 20, just like the other ones. Once again, the time to kill against 1 and 2 armor opponents is 133, just like all the other ones besides Glad's marksman rifle. But in this case, against 3 armored opponents, it falls off to 267, which is a pretty big fall. This means you won't have to hit two against 3 armored opponents. The last 2 guns we looked at only had to hit 2 shots into the person to kill them. With this gun, in this case, you'll have to shoot 3 shots into the opponent and able to kill them. So it's 1 extra whole shot. So it definitely gives the other 2 guns we gave a slight edge. When it comes to reload time, the EBR is a 3.1 tactical reload, which is the slowest, and the full reload is 3.4, which is the second slowest. So because of its under average time to kill against 3 armored, whoa,
And slow reload, probably.
and probably the worst reload time. If there's a gun we're gonna put in C tier, this is the gun we would put in C. There's no gun that's gonna be worse than this.
Oh yeah, I agree. Yeah.
You agree? It should go in C. What do you think, Offer? Do you think the EBR goes in C?
Yeah, I agree with that.
Alright, okay, we'll throw it down in C. The next marksman rifle we have up is the SR-25. This is Blackbeard's marksman rifle. It's got a damage of 61, which is slightly below average of all the guns we've seen. The standard rate of fire of 450, and a magazine size of 20, so the standard once again. Once again, the DPS for 1 and 2 armored opponents is 133, identical to majority of the others. And against 3 armored opponents, the SR-25 does fall off to 267, just like the EBR. So, once again, it's got a slightly disadvantage against 3 armored opponents. When it comes to reload time, though, its tactical reload is 2.9, which is the second lowest, and its full reload is 3.5, which is the lowest. So actually, this one is very similar to the EBR.
Worse.
and it's pretty much just as bad as the EBR. I think this one actually probably should go in C also, below average.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, they both are lowest
Actually,
DPS
that
against
kind of
3
surprised me.
and the lowest armor. So we're gonna throw that one down in C. Alright, next up we have the AR 15.5. This is technically classified as an AR, but we put it on the Marksman Rifle tier list because it's a semi-automatic, and we felt like it was unfair to compare it with all the fully automatic ARs. So it's got a damage of 62, which is slightly below average we've seen. It's got the normal rate of fire of all the Marksman Rifles, but this one actually only has a magazine size of 10. So it is below average on the magazine size. Now this does have the same time to kill as the 1 and 2 armored opponents as the rest. And this one is just like the EBR we looked at and the SR25. It does fall down on the 3 armored opponents DPS wise to go to 267. So it's below average on all those stats. But its upside, it has the fastest reload time by far out of any of the tactical rifles. It has a 2.2 millisecond tactical reload and a 3.1, which makes it best in both of them. So
And what's this magazine size?
it's only 10. So comparing it to the last 2 guns we did, it's got 10 bullets compared to 20, but those guns have the slowest reload time when this one has the fastest. So to me, it's difficult because if you're hitting your shots, 10 bullets is enough to kill someone, and then you get that quick reloading, you know? But if you're not hitting your shots, you need that larger magazine. Oh, I don't even know where I want to put this one right now.
I would go with B.
I think I want to put it in B too, because if you should be able to kill someone in 3 shots, and even if it's against 3 armored people, you can kill them in 3 hits. So say you miss 2 shots and you hit 3, you can kill 2 people still in those 10 bullets. So you can kill 2 3 armored opponents in a clip of 10 if you hit 3 and miss 2. So I think the advantage of having the extra load speed does give it the slight edge over these ones we just did. So I'm gonna put it in B, and my vote's B. Alfred, do you think B also?
Yeah.
Yeah, alright, perfect. We're going to put it up in B. Alright, so we got our last and final marksman rifle here. Probably the most interesting one, because it's got the most variety of stats, being the OTS-03. This is Glaz's marksman rifle. It's got a damage of 71, which makes it the highest damage, but it's got a rate of fire of 380, which makes it lower than all the others. And it's got the 10 magazine, so below average on the magazine size. So this one we gotta look at the DPSs for all the guns, and I'll tell you in respect to the other marksman rifle where he sits. Against 1 armored opponents, you remember all the other marksman rifles is 133. He's 158, so he's below them, but by a little bit. Against 2 armored opponents, it's 158 again, so it's behind by 25 milliseconds. And then against 3 armored opponents, because of this high damage, it stays at 158, which is not as good as the 2 marksman rifles, the 417 and the CMRS, the 2 that don't fall off, but it's better than the 3 marksman rifles that do fall off against the 3 armored opponents. So it's middle of the pack against 3 armors. Like I said, its rate of fire is slower. This one does have a thermal sight, and when we take a look at its reload speed, its tactical is 2.7, so middle of the pack, and its full reload is 3.4, which is middle of the pack again. So middle of the pack reload, below average rate of fire, below average clip size.
So I don't know, below average.
Its damage against 1 and 2 armors is worse than the other marksman rifles. Against 3 armored, it's better than some, worse than others. But the one upside of it is it's got a thermal scope. So it's really how high do you value the thermal scope?
I still think based off stats alone, it deserves to be in C.
To me, it is a tough fight between B and C.
Mm.
Because stats-wise, slow mag and an average reload time does not look good. Low mag, you know what I mean? At least, like, the gun we had in B had the really fast reload time to make up for it, but this one doesn't. DPS-wise, it doesn't have a bad DPS against 3 armored, which is a benefit. So, like, these 3 guns in B and C here, Ryan, against 3 armored, have a way, way, way worse DPS against 3 armored. So does it
Hmm.
belong on the same thing as C? Like the guns in C? All they have over it is a 20 magazine size. You know what I mean? They still got really, really low reload speeds, which Gladys the Marksman Rifle is better. And DPS wise against 3 armored, it beats it out by a big margin. So I don't think we can put in C. I think and it's got the thermal too. I think it gets alright. I think it gets the edge up into B. That's my vote for B.
That's fine with me. I can see being big.
Okay, you want to go up to B?
I was thinking B as
Okay.
well.
This is probably the hardest one for me to
Yeah,
decide out of all that we talked about.
yeah. I think it's really dependent on how heavy you value the thermal scope. But
Hmm.
compared to these ones in C, all you're losing out on is 10 bullets, and you're getting a thermal scope on top of it, and slightly more reliable DPS against 3 armored. I think it's better than them. I think it's B. But if you actually look at the operators, you lose your whole gadget when you use this one. So realistically, I wouldn't pick this one over the ones below it. But if we're looking strictly at the guns, it has a thermal scope, and that's what it is. So once again, we didn't end up with any guns in S tier, and I think for this case, I think it should stay like that because I don't think any marksman rifle should ever be S tier in this game. Just how the game is structured with the one-shot headshot mechanics, you want to be shooting fast. You don't really ever want to be using marksman rifles. There never should be a go-to weapon. So I don't think there ever even should be a marksman rifle in S tier here. You guys agree with that?
Yeah.
Now we're just going to move on to the last few slug shots and shotguns in the game, and that will conclude today's video. Alright, so finally we got the 3 slug shotguns in the game. The first one being the ACS-12. This is Alda and Maestro's shotgun. It recently did just get changed this last season to slug shotguns. It's got a damage of 59 and a rate of fire of 300 with a magazine of 30. This is the highest magazine size out of all the slug shotguns. When we look at its time to kill, against one armored opponents, it's got a time to kill of 200 milliseconds, which makes it the worst out of these 3 shotguns.
Oh man, that really puts it on the bottom of them for me already. Go
Yeah.
ahead.
Against 2 armored, it's 200 again, which is the worst. And against 3 armored, to no one's surprise, it goes to 400, which makes it the worst by far. We'll look at some other stats. It's got the slowest fire rate out of all 3 of them. But it does have the fastest reload by a small margin. So overall, compared to these 3, I think this one's pretty
No.
easy. It's below average. It's S tier. I mean, it's C
Yeah.
tier.
Yes. And I mean, regardless of the stats, if you have any experience just using the gun, you know it's a hard gun to use.
But I would say though, before the patch it was better than this, but it's still okay. With its large magazine size and its a lot of ammo, you can do a lot of destruction to walls with it. So that is its one benefit. And having a high clip is not always bad, but overall, not really worth to use, and you should never be picking it, especially on Maestro. Next up, we have the TCSG-12. This is Cade and Goyo's slug shotgun. It has a damage of 57 and a rate of fire of 450 and a mag size of 10. So middle of the pack on the 10. Less than the last one, and it's going to be higher than the one we're going to look at after. When we look at its time to kill against 1 armored, it's higher than the AC, but lower than the Boss G. And that's going to be the same for 2 armored and 3 armored opponents. Now, when we look at fire rate, I should say this one is faster than the AC, and it's going to be tied with the Boss G. And its reload slime is slightly slower, but not by much. I think this gun is average. It used to be stronger, and they have nerfed it a bit. And damage does fall off. But so I think it's alright. It's got the better fire rate than the AC. It does got a little bit lower mag. It does have an ACOG, which does give you potential to get those headshots from a far range, so you can one-tap people. But so it's pretty solid. When you're using someone like Cade and his other options not great, I definitely see you using it. But when you're using Goyo, where the vector is really strong, then I wouldn't use it in that case. So to me, I think it could go in A tier, slightly above average. Offer, do you agree? Go in A tier?
No, yeah, I definitely agree with that one.
Alright, so we're going to put up an A tier. Alright, so finally, our last gun of the video, we have the Bosch G. And this is Vigil and Dokubi's slug shotgun. It's got a damage of 125, which is insanely higher than all the other ones. And a rate of fire of 500, and a magazine size of only 2. So let's take a look at this time to kill. And quickly you will notice that its time to kill is going to be 0 because you're going to one-shot no matter what. Against 1 armored opponents, against 2 armored opponents, and against 3 armored opponents. Unless you get to farther ranges. Remember, we are looking at damage range of 10 because that's the average damage. That's the average range someone is killed in Siege. Unless you're going farther than 10 meters, within 10 meters, it will always one-shot no matter what the armor type is. So it does have that as definitely a benefit. So its time to kill is 0 for those. It does have the better fire rate than the AC. It's got slower reload speed. It's got very similar reload speeds to the TSG that we just looked at. But the one big negative is it's got 2 shots. So if you miss your shots and you're not accurate, it's going to be rough. So me personally, I would pick the TCSG over it because you can spray and it's more forgiving if you miss your shots. And it's not even that bad DPS wise. Visual side does have the upside of being slightly better DPS wise, but you have to hit your shots. You can't miss them. So if you are perfect god tier accuracy, I can understand why you would want it to be higher, but to me, it's just a B gun. If you're good at using it, it could be good. If you're bad, it's not going to be good. It's just average to me, personally. Alright, Ryan, what do you think about the Boss G?
I hate it.
And Alfred, what do you think about it?
I hate it.
Alright, with that being said, I thought it should be B. You guys both hate it. We're going to put it up into S tier. Alright, thank you guys for watching today's video. Comment down below what guns you would have changed on our tier list. Please give this video a like and subscribe to the channel if you are new. We're on the road to 15 subscribers. Thank you guys for watching today's video. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.
Boy,